go. Monday. Hope you all had a great weekend. JD here. Good to have you on board. We always appreciate when you take some of your time to spend it with us here on the program, where we like our flying a little turbulent, our women a little crazy, our politics a little messy, and our music a little EDC. For those of you not familiar with the Electric Daisy Carnival that was just here in Las Vegas for the last 3 nights, wow, I think I've stumbled across something that I shouldn't have, because now, like that Electric Light Orchestra song, I can't get it out of my head. Marcelo with his new haircut. Looks good, Marcelo. Very distinguished there. Notice a little bit more gray. Perhaps it's just the lighting in the studio. I'm not saying. Brad producing the program. Look at you when you're holding that distinguished pose there as you look towards the camera. Oh, it looks good. It's very efficient. It looks very good. Very nice.
Enough.
Oh, we found his weak spot. Don't give him any compliments on the air because he goes into his shell. All right, Marcelo will be screwing things up for us today on the board. Brad will be producing the program to the best of his limited capabilities. I will mess this program up as much as humanly possible. You can join us at 800-876-4123. Poll question up for you today at the website, jerrydoyle.com. In 2011, as many U.S. citizens were crushed to death by their furniture as were killed by terrorists. 17 is the total number. The question is, do we in the United States have an irrational fear of terrorism, yes or no? 32% say no, we don't. 68% say yes, we do. Your answer there at the website or here at 800-876-4123 on the program where intellectual anarchy is encouraged and nurtured for now. Some of the things we're going to get to on the program today, I can answer for you. I get a lot of people saying, where's the recovery? I have the answer of why there is no recovery. Because there is no recovery. That's the answer. It's that simple, and it's that complicated. One of the things we're going to take a look at over the weekend was the announcement by Spain, España, that they need a quick $125 billion non-bailout bailout. Don't call it a bailout, and it's not a bailout, but it's a bailout, and they bailed them out on Saturday to the tune of $125 billion. International stock markets rallied on the news that there was going to be a bailout. Really? That's like saying, I just got a call from my doctor. He said I don't have lung cancer. Really? How are you going to celebrate? I'm going to smoke a carton of cigarettes. That's kind of the stupid reaction of the stock markets around the world to the announcement that we're coming up with another $125 billion to bail out the banks in Spain after we did Greece, and then the list goes on. But the bailouts around the world and the big banks in the United States bracing for downgrades. Why? Why? Now are they looking at these wave of downgrades? 17 of the largest global banks, 5 of the 6 biggest United States financial institutions by assets, J.P. Morgan, Bank of America, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley. Now we're getting downgrades. But don't worry. The $2.6 trillion money market fund is not safe. Because if we're going to use non-bailout bailout, then we're going to use non-safe. The dollar you have in and the dollar you get out isn't necessarily the dollar that you have. But there's a battle going on in Congress to try and avoid the reality. And guess who's a part of it? The Republicans. The fiscally responsible Republicans are a part of this ruse to try and not stop the Wall Street criminals. It's almost as if they want another economic collapse. Or do they? We're going to talk about that at the bottom of the hour with William Cohen, New York Times bestselling author of the book Money and Power, How Goldman Sachs Came to Rule the World. Think about it. Uneven economic growth, nervous financial markets, tighter regulations. Well, we got one side, like the Democrats, that say we need to regulate more. Well, we've done that, and it's gotten worse. The Democrats say we need to unleash the financial markets. We need to help them along. We need to give them the financial assistance that they need, which they did, and still problematic. What happened to all the money? Where did all the money go? And the $2.6 trillion that you and I have in money markets, where it's supposedly safe, now they're saying it's not, and that we need a reality check, that your money in the money market isn't worth what the statement says your money in the money market is worth. It's amazing. You know what's been happening financially? And I'll just take a little detour here. There's a lot of other things to get to on the program today. My Democratic mom and her capitalist son is something we're going to talk about. Tax credits for families earning $96,000 a year so we can give them tax credits for health insurance. And the old honey, I shrunk the entitlement that the government says they've shrunk? No, they've only made it worse. When I look at this attempt to whack-a-mole financial bailout, non-bailout that we have domestically and internationally, it's kind of like if you brought an exterminator into your house. I saw a couple of roaches in the bathroom. The kind you crush, not the kind you smoke. But I saw a couple of roaches in the bathroom. Oh, speaking of roaches, best scam I ever got scammed by, 1995, Rolling Stone magazine, New York City, guaranteed cockroach killer. 1995 or your money back. Now, living in New York City back then, there was a lot of roaches, a lot of problems, bugs, and rats too, by the way. Enough about Congress. But anyway, I sent my money in, and I got 2 pieces of 2x4, and one had a black X on it. And the instructions were, put the cockroach on the X, take the other piece of wood, smack the 2 together, dead cockroach. How do you get your money back off that? It was guaranteed. And you know what? It worked. It was a guaranteed cockroach killer. But in looking at how we're dealing with these things financially, domestically and internationally, you bring the exterminator to your house and you say, I found some bugs in the bathroom. And he goes in and he sprays the bathroom. Well, what do the bugs do? They breathe deep, the gathering gloom, because they become impervious to all this stuff because we're trying to kill them with so many different ways, so many different times. But they just go from the bathroom to the bedroom. And then they go from the bedroom to the living room, or the living room to the family room, or the family room to the garage. Unless you treat the entire house, then the bugs are just going to move from one place to another. It's like when the exterminators come, my place in Florida. A lot of bugs down there, a lot of humidity. Big bugs. They don't call them cockroaches. They call them palmetto bugs because the Chamber of Commerce can get you to spend more money at a hotel when you go, oh, look, there's a palmetto bug. Doesn't that sound more Thurston and Lovey than a cockroach? So when you spray your house and you spray the yard, the bugs aren't stupid. They just go to your neighbor's house. And then the neighbor has his house sprayed 2 or 3 days later or a week later. What do the bugs do? Back over to Jerry's house. And then they get the schedule down. They go, oh, obviously it comes on the third Thursday of every month. So why don't we just leave Wednesday night? We'll go over to the neighbor's house. We'll hang out there. And then we'll give a couple of days for the bug stuff to die down at Jerry's house. Then we'll go back over there. Besides, he has nicer plants to hang in. He's a little neater than the neighbors. That's all the bugs do, is they go from one house to the next house to the next house to the next house. But then someone gets the bright idea, why don't we treat the cul-de-sac? Now we're on to something. So we can get the bugs to leave not just our bathroom or our home or our neighbor's home. We can get the bugs to leave the entire cul-de-sac. But they're going to go somewhere unless you deal with the problem of where the bugs are coming from in the first place. It's the same stupidity with the attempts by our Fed, our central bank, our Congress, and our Treasury Secretary to not be realistic about what the bigger picture and the bigger problem is. We have a gigantic domestic and international systemic financial problem. And that's the reason there's no recovery, because they're not dealing with it in the terms that it needs to be addressed. Some would say, well, they can't tell us really what's going on because it would be too much of a shock to the system. So we'll just dole out $500 billion here, $1 trillion here, $2.3 trillion from the Federal Reserve. We won't tell you which banks are bad. We won't tell you which banks we might have to stress test. We won't tell you which banks took money because we wouldn't want anybody to perceive that there's any inconsistencies or problems in our financial system. But the problem is that we're looking at over $600 trillion of actual exposure to the entire global financial system. And they're just trying to figure out a way that they can get the cockroaches to go from one bank to another, from one country to another. The cockroaches left Iceland and they went to Ireland. They left Ireland and they went to Greece. They left Greece and now they're in Spain. They're going to leave Spain and they're going to end up in France. And from France, they're going to go to Italy. And the only one that seems to be hip to this, that manages to keep the cockroaches out, is Germany. Because Germany has done what we should have done a long time ago. Here's the bottom line, folks. We're the safest place in the world to do business. You want to do business with us? This is the way it's going to go. 0.0. That's what you're going to get on your money. An actual rate of returns adjusted for inflation, you're actually going to lose money by putting your money in the German mattress. But we here in the United States have politicians that don't seem to either know or want to know or are willing to share what they know about just how bad things are. And we get promises from politicians that, don't worry, as soon as Mitt Romney becomes the president, all the problems are going to disappear. Jobs are going to be flowing everywhere. Homeowner equity is going to skyrocket. You won't know what to do with the money in your retirement account. And unfortunately, it sounds good, but it's not true. Because the reality is we have a major international financial crisis that still is not being addressed, except they think they can just pick up their shoe and step on the one bug and assume that there aren't any others.
The Jerry Doyle Show.
It is a major, major problem. And it's not just a money problem. It's a promises problem by the politicians who don't want to address the fiscal reality. Rahm Emanuel over the weekend said, there's no fiscal cliff. There's no stinking cliff. We're not going off any cliff. Well, today our stock market rallied about 75 points on the news that $125 billion of bailout money was going to be given to Spain. And now the stock market's down about the reverse of that, down 75, because what seems to be a good fix in the short run, sooner or later, reality takes over. Think Wisconsin. 800-876-4123 is the number. Jerry Doyle, join me.
This is the Jerry Doyle Show.